I'm not gonna lie, I'm excited for this Atlanta Falcons team. In fact, I'm excited for the entire NFC South, but the NFC South is not the premise of this video. You might have forgot, but last season the Atlanta Falcons were off to a very hot start, 6-3, looking like one of the best teams in the NFC. In fact, I'm pretty sure they were the second seed in the NFC at one point. Their new quarterback signing, Kirk Cousins, was balling out. He looked very solid. But then after they went 6-3, they went on a horrible stretch, losing 4 in a row, including a game they should have won against a 2-win Saints team. And during this stretch, Kirk Cousins threw for 0 touchdowns and 8 interceptions, which is unbelievable. And then the next 2 games, the next game he played, and then it was the game after that against the Giants where he was benched for Michael Penix, and they would end the season 8-9, and Kirk Cousins is no longer on the team. And Michael Penix is the future of this team. When the Falcons drafted Michael Penix 8th overall in 2024, I couldn't believe it, and most people couldn't believe it either. It was such a stretch, and everyone thought it was a bad pick. Now, don't get me wrong, dude was a beast in college, but he was like 24 years old. He was way too old to be a rookie NFL quarterback, and it didn't seem like he had the skills and the intangibles for it. It seemed like a stretch at the time, but my mind has changed a lot, and I'm really excited for this dude leading the Falcons in the future. Now, I know in the 3 games he did start, those stats aren't eye-popping, but most rookie stats really aren't. But if you watch those 3 games, which I just watched that Commanders game in Week 17 yesterday, you can see that the potential is definitely there with Michael Penix. I don't know if I've already said this, maybe I have, but Michael Penix is a large reason why I'm very excited about this team this season, but a lot of that also has to go to with the rest of the team. When the Falcons drafted Bijan Robinson 8th overall in 2023, expectations were high. He was the most hyped up running back prospect easily since Saquon Barkley in 2018, and like I said, the expectations were high, and he did not have a terrible or bad rookie season at all in 2023. Rushed for a little over 1,000 yards and had 4 touchdowns, and he did pretty decent for my fantasy football team. But it was in 2024 where he really blew up the league, and this past season has set him out to be one of the best running backs in the NFL. 1,456 rushing yards and 14 touchdowns, and he was selected to his first Pro Bowl, and a lot of people are having him high on the fantasy football draft boards. I know fantasy football doesn't equate to, real life football a lot of the time, but in this case it absolutely does. And Bijan Robinson is one of the best running backs in the NFL and one of the most exciting, if not the most exciting part about this Falcons team. Drake London is another phenomenal young guy on the team, drafted 8th overall in 2022. By the way, it feels like every Falcons player got drafted 8th overall, but that's besides the point. Anyway, Drake London in his first 2 seasons was pretty decent, 800 yards and 900 yards, and then he really broke out in year 3 in 2024, 100 receptions, 1,271 yards, and 9 touchdowns. I'm expecting all 3 of these guys to have huge seasons in 2025. Maybe not Michael Penix. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a mediocre, decent quarterback this season, but I am expecting, especially for Bijan and Drake London, to have phenomenal seasons in 2025. We now look at this offense, and I'm a big fan of this offense. I think it's pretty solid, but I want to start off with Tyler Algier, the number 2 running back on this team. And before Bijan Robinson came in, his rookie season was 2022, and he had a very phenomenal season, over 1,000 yards rushing, one of the I wouldn't say better running backs in the NFL, but he was pretty decent, pretty solid. Then obviously when Bijan came in, he took that running back 2 option, and he's fit that role so well. He's the type of guy you want at running back 2, and he's put up some decent seasons there, so I really like him. One of the reasons why the Falcons saw so much early success early in the season was because of 2 surprise pickups in Darnell Mooney and Ray McCloud. They were both new to the Falcons in 2024, and Darnell Mooney's career was kind of declining. He had a 1,000-yard season in 2021, but again, his stats were declining from the past 2 seasons, but he had a surprise, I wouldn't say breakup, but maybe a revival season in 2024, 992 yards and 5 touchdowns. Same with Ray McCloud. His most in a season was 200 yards, but this past season he had 600 receiving yards. So those 2 guys are very solid number 2 and number 3 wide receiver options. And then you have Kyle Pitts. The discourse around him is so interesting. He's definitely not having a breakout season this year. I'd be incredibly shocked. But back-to-back 600-yard seasons. Before that, a 300-yard season, and before that, a 1,000-yard season. I really don't know what the case is with him. I really don't know, but in total, in general, he's decent. He's alright. We now go to the O-line, and it's a decent O-line. It's not terrible. It's definitely been worse in the past, and I would say it's improved over the last few years. But we start off with the left tackle, Jake Matthews, and even though he has one Pro Bowl under his belt in his now to be 12-year career, he's still one of the better, in my opinion, better linemen in the NFL. And if you just take a look at his Pro Football Reference, since he got drafted in 2014, he's missed one game in his career. Besides that, since 2015, he started every single game. That's unreal. You never hear about that with any lineman, and I don't know how anyone has not talked about that at all. So I think that just goes to show how good of a lineman he is. Now we have Matthew Bergeron. I don't really know a lot about him other than the fact that he looks like Vex Bolts. Ryan Newsel, again, I don't know a lot about that guy. I did see that he only started 8 games last season, and it looks like he's going to be the starting center for this team. Chris Lindstrom is one of the better linemen in the NFL. If you watch football at all, you probably know who he is. Like I said, one of the better linemen in the NFL. And then you have Caleb McGarry. I'm not even really too sure about him either. He's been a starter for this Falcons team for the past few years, so I'm assuming he's pretty good. Again, I'm sorry that I don't know a lot about linemen. You guys can flame me for that. We now go over to the defensive side of the ball, and it's pretty interesting because at edge rusher and the first nose tackle, or I guess, man, my football IQ is really showing here. We have Zach Harrison, and I'm not going to even attempt to say that guy's name, but both of them barely played in their first few seasons. Zach Harrison entering his 3rd season, and the other guy entering his 2nd season, and they did start some games, but it wasn't a lot, and now both of them are going to be elevated to, as of right now, they're going to be elevated into the starting position this next season for the Falcons, so we'll just see how that goes. Then we get to the other edge rusher, the other defensive end, David Onyemata, and he's been a very solid veteran guy, started almost all of his games in his NFL career. Very solid, like I said, very solid veteran guy. I'm really just saying the same words over and over again. You get the point. He's solid. We now go to the linebackers, and Leonard Floyd is having his first season with the Falcons. He's been another guy who's been a very solid veteran presence, decent around the NFL. We know of Caden Ellis, who last year was on top of the league when it came to tackles, and the year before that, he also had a lot of tackles with 122. And by the way, he came from the Saints before he joined the Falcons. He's entering his 3rd season with the team, and the Saints have a weird thing where they just miss on defensive talent. Trey Hendrickson, even though he blew up in his last year, Alex Anzalone, Caden Ellis, he had Zach Bond last year. I don't know what it is with the Saints, but they have something wrong with them. They also picked up Divine Diablo from the Raiders this offseason, and when he's healthy, he's also a stud. And they have Arnold, I'm not even going to say that last name. They have him, he hasn't started a full season yet. This will be his first season of being the starter, if he is a starter. Again, things could change, but we will see how he goes. Also, they have guys like James Pierce and Jalen Walker, both very solid rookies, just chilling as second stringers, and they have a lot of potential, so I hope they get some playing time because I think they'll be studs. In my opinion, that linebacker core is very solid, but this secondary core is also very solid as well. AJ Terrell has been a solid cornerback ever since he got entered the NFL. He had an all-pro season in 2021. And then Jesse Bates, arguably the best safety in the NFL. It's him or Kyle Hamilton. He's a dog. And then everyone after that is just alright. Jordan Fuller, Mike Hughes, D. Alford. Haven't done a whole lot in the NFL, but again, they're decent, they're alright. I was also a big fan of Xavier Watson, Billy Bowman Jr. in college, and I think they can get some playing time and be pretty decent for this team. Overall, I think this defense is pretty solid. I really do like them. They don't have a lot of star names. Jesse Bates is the only one that I think a lot of people know about. Same with AJ Terrell, but a lot of these guys get the job done. They're very solid. I wouldn't be surprised if this defense is very good this season. Now, it's going to be tough to compete in a pretty decent and pretty competitive division where we have a team like the Bucs who's made the playoffs every season since 2020, and with Baker Mayfield emerging as a borderline top 10 quarterback in the NFL. It's going to be tough to play them and to beat them. And then you have a team like the Panthers, who I think have improved greatly over the past offseason, and we'll see how good Bryce Young is. I think he can emerge as a pretty decent, pretty good quarterback this NFL season. We can excuse the Saints. The Saints are going to be pretty bad this season, but it's going to be a competitive NFC South this season. But yeah, that's about it, guys. How do you think the Falcons are going to do this season? And yeah, that's about it. See you.